I wanted to read the legislative resolution that I introduced yesterday pertaining to climate change. These resolutions that I've introduced are in response to Legislative Resolution 107, which was introduced by Senator Groney and co-signed by 30 other senators, many of whom didn't read the resolution. It's a very partisan and very poorly written and very aggressive legislative resolution that I don't think should be voted out by the legislature because it doesn't embody the spirit and tone that we embody here in the legislature, that we should anyway. So in response to this, I've been filing several different legislative resolutions. I have another one to file today pertaining to voting rights and voter suppression, but the one I filed yesterday is Legislative Resolution 130, which pertains to climate change. And I wanted to read that into the record in case that any of my resolutions aren't voted out to the floor for full debate, as we expect LR130 to be. Legislative Resolution 130. Now therefore be it resolved by the members of the 107th Legislature of Nebraska, first session, 1, that we hereby reaffirm our solemn oaths of office by expressing a firm resolution to maintain and defend the viability of our planet and its natural resources from the urgent existential threat of climate change, and to support legislation that will move Nebraska toward a clean energy economy. 2, that we are greatly alarmed that a faction of the state and federal legislative leaders have failed to acknowledge the established science of climate change, higher frequency of extreme weather events, and growing effects of climate change on the economy of the United States. Further, this failure by state and federal legislative leaders is a betrayal of the United States Declaration of Independence, which declares a right to, quote, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, unquote, which is contingent upon a habitable planet and a natural environment capable of sustaining human, animal, and plant life. 3, that we express distress at the Donald J. Trump presidential administration's actions to abandon protections for public lands and roll back Environmental Protection Agency rules. 4, that we are grateful for President Joseph R. Biden's leadership in swiftly and decisively taking action to revoke the permit for the dangerous proposed Keystone XL pipeline construction project, which would threaten to wreak environmental havoc on its path through Nebraska, and his directives issued to protect air and water quality in public lands across this nation. 5, that the legislature requests cooperation from the Governor of Nebraska, the Attorney General, the President of the United States, the President pro tempore of the United States Senate, the Secretary of the United States Senate, the Speaker of the United States House of Representatives, the Clerk of the United States House of Representatives, and the presiding officers of each of the legislative houses in the several states in taking decisive action to prevent further damage to our planet and ecosystem. 6, that the clerk of the legislature shall transmit copies of this resolution to the Governor of Nebraska, the Nebraska Attorney General, the President of the United States, the President pro tempore of the Senate, the Secretary of the United States Senate, the Speaker of the United States House of Representatives,
1 minute,
the Clerk of the United States House of Representatives, and to the presiding officers of each of the legislative houses in the several states. That legislation, or that legislative resolution, is LR 130 that I introduced yesterday. And the other 2 legislative resolutions that I introduced last week should be scheduled for a hearing on Tuesday. I understand it's not on the calendar yet, but my office got a call about that. So we'll have those hearings. And then I have another resolution to introduce today around voting rights that will also get a hearing in the executive board, I expect. Thank you, Mr. President.